The beginning of this year, meaning January 2013, as the host of Carousel, I came up with the idea to create a mandate, if you will, to bring new faces, new technology, new ideas, new concepts to Carousel. My guest here today is another shining example of that idea. For the very first time on Carousel, we're going to bring to you the entire cast and crew, the folks in the background that make a soon-to-be Broadway musical happen on this very stage and on this very television show. I welcome to Carousel as my guest for the very first time, Kimberly Vaughn.
Hi,
Kimberly.
so much, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Kimberly is the co-writer of a brand new, soon-to-be, God willing, Broadway musical, and it's called Lord Tom.
Yes.
And what she and I are going to do right at this very moment is we're going to introduce you to the folks at home, to the crew and the cast of Lord Tom. Please watch.
For the sins that man has done to man.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Vaughn, and I'm the co-writer of Lord Tom.
And my name is Stan Gelbert. I'm the composer and lyricist.
We want to get this puppy on Broadway. That's where it belongs. So we're fundraising through Indiegogo so that we can mount this as a staged reading in New York City. Our goal is that at least one seasoned producer, if not multiple seasoned producers, will option the piece for a Broadway production.
For me, Lord Tom is about the hope that one day we all will be free.
It really talks to me about the struggles that slaves had, and especially for him being torn away from his family, and sort of this redemptive grace that he bestows upon people throughout the story.
What is the story about, to me, ultimately, is connection, the holding together of family. If we can tell a story of how family comes together, then I think then it's a successful piece.
I was asked, why did you choose Uncle Tom's Cabin for a musical? And I replied, I didn't choose it, it chose me. And I meant it.
God made a garden out of rock and crust. Then he made Adam out of smoke and dust. He said, your tree is tree with fruit that's sweet, but don't eat, don't eat, don't eat. He lived in Eden, but it wasn't great. Adam was lonely cause he had no mate. God said, I'll take a rib to make you complete, but don't eat, don't eat, don't eat. When Anna woke up, Eve was there, looking at the apples, combing her hair.
From the moment they meet, they have a really special connection, and they see right past each other's skin color and into each other's heart, and they become really good friends.
When God speaks out, you done better be good. Don't eat.
On a day like this, all I wanna do is praise the Lord.
The story itself, as we know, is beautiful, and being able to hear the emotion as opposed to just seeing it on a black and white page really makes a big difference.
Music is the only thing that can sort of pierce you without your permission. It should be, and forever should be, a musical.
We can push the story forward in the music, and Stan's music absolutely does that.
The sweeping melodies in this score are really taking flight and filling the room as we rehearse with them. It's just really great to think how they could also fill a Broadway house.
I've never seen a musical like this before. It's really powerful, and I really like it.
It's some wonderful music, some of the best music I've ever heard. I absolutely love the music for this show.
Couple of favorites? Where's the road to freedom? Where's the road to freedom? I don't know. Is there across the river? Row, row, row. An anthem, Mighty Mississippi, and another one called Someday Soon. So maybe those.
And the showstopper, Who Am I Really? It's a lot, but it's a wonderful a lot.
Kimberly and I have known each other, I would guess 2007. That's how we met. Now, Kimberly, outside of being co-writer for Lord Tom, is also a very, very long time acting coach and performance coach in New York City, in Manhattan specifically.
Right.
And that's how we came, or if you will, cross paths. So let's talk a little bit about you first.
Okay.
About, you're originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
It's true.
Right? the beer capital of the world, right?
Yeah, beer and cheese, boy.
Right.
I remember crawling underneath a table when I was 1 year old, and my dad and a dear friend of his were having a beer and watching the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah,
what else is there?
That's right,
you know?
exactly.
And then we segued over to Cleveland, where my sister was born, and
Okay.
spent a little time in Atlanta.
Okay.
And then on to Glenview, which is a suburb of Chicago on the North Shore,
Okay.
which was wonderful. That's where my creative process really started.
Was in Chicago.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Glenview.
In Glenview,
Yes,
right.
which, as I said, is a suburb. I need to backtrack, though, because my first love is dance. And when I was a little tyke in Atlanta, my mom found a wonderful ballet studio where I used to go have a class once a week.
Okay.
And I remember flying through the air as though it was the normal thing to do.
Peter Pan.
Yeah, almost. Truly. It
Okay.
was a phenomenal experience.
Sure.
And the dance form to me is one of the most profound artistic endeavors to communicate story non-verbally.
Okay.
And the really brilliant dancers, and I'm thinking Baryshnikov, Nureyev,
Right.
Fontaine, all
Sure.
of those folks are breathtakingly stunning because we feel their life force. On you know, whether or not they're doing a tour jeté or lying, you know, languid on the stage floor.
Sure.
It's an amazing art form. So
Okay.
I think it informed a lot of what I do today.
Okay.
And
I'm sure it had the base, created
Yeah.
the base for what you're doing.
Yeah, and I
Right.
bring it into my performance coaching work
Okay.
a lot, because I really suggest that it's all a dance.
Right.
You know, it needs to have a fluidity,
Right.
the way that dance does, and a message the way that dance does. So
Sure.
it has informed my work as a performance coach.
And what's the adage? We're all players on the stage of life?
Well, that's one of them.
Yeah, yeah. We're all players on the stage of life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the world's a stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we all players.
How
Yeah.
did that, through your experiences up until this point, what brought you to the city, meaning New York City? How did you get there? How did you get from Glenview to there?
Great. Well, I actually was dating a fellow at the time
Okay.
who was in, I believe it was 40 Carats with Barbara Rush.
Wow.
So that was definitely last century.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were very close, and I had wanted to explore the possibility of being a performing artist in New York City,
All right.
and so I did come to New York. It was, I moved here, I think it was 1970.
Okay.
And I performed here in Summerstock at the Cecilwood Theater, a converted church, phenomenal, darling place. Lots of creativity happened up in Fishkill, New York.
Oh.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy, we did some super wonderful
work here.
theater there.
Sure.
And some of the happiest days of my life were performing there.
And when did you start teaching? When did the acting, coaching, and how did that all come about? It's certainly one step leads to the next, certainly.
Yes, and you're so right, Scott. It's so connected. I was performing and I was studying. I was training with the guru of the 70s, Warren Robertson, who
Okay.
I believe has since retired. But his work was a distillation of Meisner and Strasberg and Stella Adler.
Okay.
So phenomenal work, and
Sure.
a lot of great work was done in those classes. And one of my best friends in that class was Madeline Kahn.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, we had some major names in those classes. And I went to Warren one day and I said, I'd love to teach a class for you. And he said, let me think about that. And he decided to give me a shot.
Give you a shot.
Yeah, and you know, he hadn't at that point in time, for what it's worth, anticipated hiring a female to teach. So I think it was a really smart move for him on that level as well.
Sure.
And Larry Moss, a dear friend of mine, was also teaching with me for Warren at that time. Betty Buckley.
Oh my word,
yep.
yeah.
We were all teaching for Warren Robertson. And so that was mid-70s.
Okay.
And here we are, 2013.
Yes, we are.
So with very little hiatus, you know, life does take us down a variety of roads.
It does.
And it always circles back to what the main event is, if you will.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
for me it's the performing arts,
yes.
and that's where I live, you know.
Okay.
So I've been teaching and coaching a long time. I've also done a little producing and some regional directing.
Right. Because part of the idea of Kimberly and I knowing each other, let's say for the last almost 6 years, she's come to my performances, I've come to some of her events and some of the stage readings and plays that she's had. But now you're taking off on a much larger step in the sense of your co-writing. So Lord Tom, because that's the crux of this interview, is in the establishment phase. You're trying to get funding going, you're trying to get that whole idea off the ground, onto the stage, if you will. What inspired you, because Lord Tom is the idea that you're taking Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe, you're taking that work, that literary work, and now you're creating a theaterization inspiration aspect of it. So let's talk a little bit about how did that happen?
Great.
Please.
That, yes, Lord Tom, the musical, is inspired by Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Right.
And my wonderful life friend and co-writer, who also is the brilliant lyricist composer on the show, and I get to say that because I didn't write them, you see. It's phenomenal music.
Stan Gilbert, who we saw in the video clip, yes.
Superb.
Yes.
And if I may just add, one of the aspects of his writing that I regard and appreciate so tremendously is that he writes for the character, do you know? It's not homogenized music. Ophelia, who finds herself in love with a married man, has a romantic ballad. You know, Topsy, who has been browbeaten to believe she's worthless, you know, has a song, an up-tempo, funny, wonderful song.
Sure.
I'm So Wicked. I'm the wickedest critter in the world. You know, until she's educated,
sure.
Which is the gift that all children receive or ought to receive.
Sure.
So, not to go off on a tangent, but the music, which is so integral to a musical, is profoundly important in this piece.
Sure.
And it's really been an utter privilege and an honor to work with Stan on the piece. The original idea came from Stan.
I got you. Okay.
And he, in one of his incarnations, because he's a prolific songwriter,
he is.
And people, the likes of Elvis Presley and you know, a whole
Universal
long
Studios,
list of people have recorded his material.
Yes.
He won a Clio for his work in the Revlon Girl commercial years ago.
Right.
So his process is tried and true.
Sure.
In one of his incarnations as a teacher later in life, he did a distillation, if you will, of Porgy and Bess.
Oh, okay.
And the kids, for the kids.
Right.
And they loved it and adored it, and it was a joyful noise, if you will.
Sure.
And he thought to himself, what else, what other body of work, like a Les Mis, like a Lost in the Stars, like a Ragtime, like a Secret Garden, like a Showboat, you know, Phantom of the Opera, that is born on the page as a novel.
Right.
What else is out there that moves me? And this is Stan speaking.
Yes.
And That was Uncle Tom's
Hence
Cabin.
Uncle Tom's Cabin, right.
So, you know, a bunch of the musical material was written, and there was a draft of a script, and we have rebirthed it. Let's just put it that way.
I got it.
It is profoundly its own animal, if you will.
This is all part of not so much the theatrical, but this is part of the true art process of music, creation, painting, sculpting, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, right.
It's all roads lead to Rome, so to speak.
Right.
And so what you're doing, and that was one of the big reasons why I asked you to come on, is because you're taking an idea. You're now taking that idea and sculpting it, molding it, and creating it now to a reality.
Yes.
Which is time, energy, work, certainly money and all that,
right.
but also the passion of a heart and a soul.
Yes.
And then what you do, like music, is then now you get other people involved to create the same mindset and to create the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing now is there's a Facebook page for Lord Tom the Musical.
Right.
There's also an actual website called LordTomMusical.com,
Right.
which you can go on and get information about what you're doing and what the process is and where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
And also you're on Indiegogo, as you mentioned in the video clip,
Yes.
about
yes.
how you're trying to get the word out and you're trying to get
Yes.
people interested, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So what's going to happen here with this interview that we're doing today is that it'll now certainly be aired on a regular Carousel slot, but also it'll eventually be on YouTube, and that'll help get you to help get the word out. And that's what Carousel is Carousel is surely a show of support.
Yeah.
And so when I saw your postings last week about what you were doing and about the fact that it's Uncle Tom's Cabin and you're doing a theatrical musical about it, I was like, wow, that's really phenomenal.
Yeah.
And certainly you go on the video and you see all the information and the people that you're getting involved. So good for you.
Aw.
And it's a task at hand, certainly.
It's Herculean.
But it's a labor of love.
It is an utter labor of love.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. It takes an enormous commitment
It does.
to do anything in life.
It does.
And when it's something that both Stan and I and all the folks that we now call our Lord Tom family are so dedicated
Sure.
to supporting this beautiful piece of theater,
Sure.
really live and breathe on the stage in New York City.
Sure.
That's our goal.
Okay.
If I may,
Sure.
I know we've chatted about this, and it's important to me, Scott. I'm a theater person at heart.
Yes, you are.
So I'd love nothing more than for this musical, Lord Tom, to be lifted up onto the stage, both regionally and in New York on Broadway, and to have a very healthy run. Why? 2 reasons. First of all, it is a profoundly beautiful piece of musical theater.
Sure.
And I don't say that because I co-wrote it. No, because that job is never done.
Right.
I'll be tweaking it and fixing it until,
Right.
I drop over.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
Until even after Philip Boykin wins his Tony.
Right.
That's our goal.
Right.
That Philip Boykin, this magnificent human being, who is a profound heart walking on the earth. We found each other by chance. He is now the star of our show, and there's no question in my mind that the work he's doing on that stage will be worthy of a Tony.
Is it really by chance, though? Because we both come from a similar head.
No, it's not.
No, of course it's not.
I
Of course it's not.
believe that it was divinely guided,
Right.
as I do this project.
Right.
I believe it's God's handiwork. This is divinely guided. There is divine intervention all the time with this project, and you're a magnificent example of that, Scott.
Well, thank you. But Stan says that in the video clip.
Yeah.
He said, people ask me, why did I pick Lord Tom?
Right.
Or Uncle Tom's Cabin, I'm sorry, but then
Right.
Lord Tom.
Yeah.
But I say, it picked me.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're talking
Yeah,
about here.
yeah.
And Philip Boykin, by the way, listening to him and watching him on that videotape
Yeah.
reminds me a lot, voice-wise,
Yeah.
of James Earl Jones has a very distinctive big voice.
Extremely.
Big voice.
Yeah, very.
But just very present voice.
Yes.
And certainly very theatrical. I mean,
Yes.
There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
But terrific voice.
Beautiful.
Terrific voice and a wonderful presence.
Yes, incredible. And a heart of gold.
I bet.
And a dedication to whatever he embarks upon.
Sure.
I have learned. And to this project, he's there with us for the whole ride.
Sure.
And makes himself available when we need his support. He's a true champion. There's no question about it.
Right, and what was his phrase that we were talking a little bit about, how he was saying until?
Well, until there is no more slavery,
Right.
this musical will be relevant.
Right.
That's a quote. I think it's also
From Philip,
in
yes.
one
Yes,
of the
from
clips.
the video, yes, exactly.
And I was starting to say a moment ago, and if I may just touch upon this, because it's not a comfortable subject, but it's a worthy subject, and it certainly is the food, if you will, the fodder from which Lord Tom the Musical grew. And that is that here we are in 2013, and why Stan and I are so passionate about it. So he worked with inner city kids, and I'm all about man's humanity to man, not inhumanity. I get pretty fired up and passionate about it. So as I was starting to say, and I will circle back to answering this question, there are two reasons why I'm dedicated to seeing Lord Tom be mounted on Broadway.
Right.
Because it is worthy of people sitting in the seats and drinking it in and enjoying it. Also because it will touch hearts and minds, as I think I also said in the video. And when we touch hearts and minds, people change. And when people change, more people are affected in a better way.
Yes.
And so sooner or later, because we are still attempting to get it right in terms of the three things that are important to us in Lord Tom: faith, family, and freedom.
Right.
We're still trying to get all of those right, I think, people.
Yeah.
Do you know? But especially where Lord Tom the Musical is concerned, and especially where Kimberly Vaughn is concerned, my passion is to get that mounted so that we can touch thousands of people. And if they walk out of the theater and say, I'm going to contribute to Save the Children, or I'm gonna endow Southern Poverty Law Center in my will.
Sure.
We will have made a difference, you see, and that's what it's all about.
Well, just simply changing somebody's viewpoint or changing somebody's thought process is, as it says across the bottom of the screen of the video, it all starts with one man, the change. So that's the hub of where you're going with this.
Right.
And also, interestingly enough, because it is all connected, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harry Beecher Stowe, the literary, it just celebrated an anniversary because it was published March 20th, 1852.
That's right.
So here you are now, March of 2013, it's just celebrating an anniversary. And here you are now getting this musical off the ground and working on it and propelling that whole concept of what that storyline was.
Right.
You're propelling it forward because it is, even though a bunch of years later, it's still consistent with what, although the game's changed a little bit, but the rules are still the same. It's still, a lot of that nonsense is going on, and this is where you're all coming from.
Right on.
Yeah, so good for you.
Thank you.
And how beautiful a walk and expression of that is, and hence that's part of the reason why I asked you on here. And hopefully, God willing, one step at a, and the creek don't rise.
Yeah, right.
God willing, just keep putting the steps forward here.
Yeah.
Now your funding operation stops at April 26th. I think it's on Indiegogo.
On Indiegogo, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
but
go on.
We will welcome support.
Right.
Beyond that point. We are doing our staged readings, which is why
May.
we're in May 20
right.
and May 21, and that's
down the
why
city,
we're
down New York
funding.
City, yes. So basically, if you go on to LordTomMusical.com, which is the website, or if you go on to the Facebook page of it, which is Lord Tom the Musical, you can get information about how they're going along, and you can get information about the stage readings. I think it's May 20th and 21st.
Yes, it is. They are.
And that's at the Peter J. Theater in...
Peter J. Sharp And that's one of the theaters at Playwrights Horizons, which is
Right.
on Theater Row on
Okay.
West 42nd Street.
Right. So
Yes.
you can get information about what's happening. Also, Kimberly is on Facebook as well,
Yes.
herself.
Yes,
So
it's true.
if you want to friend her, and you can also find out about what's going on with her as well, because she does postings about what's happening with it. But 2013, and you're right, we're still trying to get it right.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out how to take what we do and make it better. We've come a long way, like the cigarette commercial used to be years ago.
Yes.
We've come a long way, baby.
Baby,
But
yeah.
man, we got like a long way to go. We got a long way to go, Action
man.
Jackson.
Amen.
So point is, that's what you're doing here, and certainly as a coach as well, meaning a performing acting coach.
Oh, yes.
That's what you're doing too. We talked a little bit about that before the interview started getting going, about how you, with your experience and with your
note right, am
Sure.
I delivering the monologue well?
Sure.
It's not about that. It's about showing up as human beings, not human doings. So
Right.
it's a great honor to be so busy, shall we say, supporting the growth and evolution of so many people.
Absolutely.
And I'm really, privileged to be doing that.
Sure, and this is now part of the torch that you're carrying with Lord Tom the Musical coming up.
Right.
So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it so much, my
so
dear.
much my
You're a
pleasure.
doll. Good luck
Thank
and
you.
much success with
Thank you.
getting the wheels under it and getting it down the street and
Well,
getting it
you've
onto
been
a Broadway stage.
A great help, Scott.
And thank you all for joining us on Carousel again. Also, planting a seed, because that's how I started January 13th of this year. Please be reverent to April 22nd of this year, because that's Earth Day. And that's the whole idea, part and parcel of what you're talking about. Please be reverent for Mother Earth. So thank you all for being here again, and we'll see you soon. Happiness comes with success. That I guess is true. But success is more or less a point of view. I'm no millionaire. I'm not the type to care. 'Cause I got a pocket full of dreams. It's my universe, even with that empty purse. 'Cause I've got a pocket full of dreams. You can keep the wealth of Wall Street for a road where nature trod. I'd calculate I'm worth my weight in gold.